It's official that Apple's September iPhone event was a success, and I went into the event with a low expectation. However, after having tried a few of the devices, there's much more to discover than I initially thought. So let's start off with the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max. So the new color for this year is the Desert Titanium. It's like a cream-colored back with kind of like a bronzish trim. I was just surprised that there was no bright or vibrant colorways on the Pro models this year, like there's no blue or green hues, it was just like neutral tones. But these devices are bigger this year, so dimensions just like holding them. They didn't actually feel noticeably larger than the previous models. Like, if I didn't know that they were bigger, I may not have been able to tell just looking at the backs of them. However, when you flip the screens over, they are significantly larger. It's a bigger screen for both the Pro and the Pro Max this year. But it's not just a larger screen. In terms of performance, the new Pro and Pro Max use the new A18 Pro chip, and this is a supposedly fairly decent step up in terms of performance on CPU and GPU. And because this is more energy efficient chip, this is now a longer lasting series of devices than the previous generation. The new battery life claims from Apple do look quite good, but it still uses 8 gigs of RAM. That was very surprising to me. Like, I thought that with all this new AI hardware that's in there that typically uses a lot of RAM, that it would require an elevated bump across the board. Right. But the Pro devices, both the 16 Pro and the 16 Pro Max, both still have 8 gigs of RAM. And this is like Pixel devices. The Pro devices have 16 gigs of RAM, like literally double the RAM. So I mean, it's interesting to see the strategy that Apple's built for their AI integration and implementation. Now, one AI feature that Apple showed at this event that they did not show during WWDC was their new visual intelligence feature. And the idea behind this is very similar to Google Lens. Like, you take your phone, you activate the camera at something and it snaps a picture, and visual intelligence will tell you what kind of dog it was that you just took a picture of. Or if you snap it at like a restaurant or something, it'll show you the menu or possibly show you reviews. But the idea is that it's using the camera and using some context of, how you're using it. It will now give you information that you might require. Now, the implementation of this is not novel in any way, but the way they've done it is through a new physical button that you use to launch visual intelligence. It's supposed to launch towards the tail end of this year. But the other thing that this button can do is that it can launch camera control. So they actually don't refer to this whole button thing as a button. They actually call it camera control. Every time I use the word button in front of the Apple reps, they'll be like, no, it's not actually a button. It's called camera control. So you can use this camera control to launch the camera. So if you tap it, it'll launch the camera app. And if you tap it again, it'll take a picture. And if you hold it, it'll roll video. But in addition to those kind of basic camera controls, you can use it to go through the menus and basically just control your camera through a UI that's entirely dependent on that capacitive button thing. So it is, in fact, a capacitive multifunction sensor that I'm just referring to as a button. And I call it a button because when you put pressure on it, it depresses down and you let go. It pops back up. It's a very shallow press. Like, we're talking like less than a millimeter of travel for that button. And there's also a capacitive sensor on the inside. So when you slide your finger back and forth, it's detecting that. And also there's a haptic motor inside this whole thing, a very faint one. But you can feel like little bumps as you move around in the UI. Now this is, it's a very, for lack of a better term, it's basically like a touchpad on the side of your phone. The camera systems on the iPhone 16 Pros have a few things of interest to me. First, the tetra prism lens that only existed on the Max model last year, like the bigger one, is now present on both models. So now, both the Pro and the Pro Max have the same camera system. Secondly, there's now a 120 frames per second, 4K resolution cinematic mode shooting option, which uses an incredible amount of processing. And to have to see that on a phone is actually, it's kind of bonkers. And thirdly, the ultra-wide on both the Pro and the Pro Max are now using a 48 megapixel sensor, which I imagine will help significantly with just better quality ultra-wide shots. That's something that the Pro devices have never been amazing at compared to some of the competition. Alright, onto the regular iPhone 16. So there's new colors. These are more vivid looking color selection than the previous generation. There's a pink, there's a teal, and there's an ultramarine. All three of them look pretty cool. But that teal, that's just 100%. That's the best color without a doubt. It's just a really nice looking color for an iPhone. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section below. With that being said, I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.